I'm gonna hit record so I don't forget. And we will jump right in. Okay, hold on, I gotta switch screens here. Oh my goodness. All right. I'm like, where? Sorry. I was all set. I like cleaned off my screen so everyone didn't have to see all my crazy tabs tonight. There it is. All right. So we are on session 2, and if you didn't come to session 1, it's not a big deal. Session 1, we covered resumes, which actually some of you I've already talked to in depth about that. And all I would say is, if you haven't shared your resume with me, just send me an email with your resume so I can take a look and let you know if you're on track as far as like best recommendations. And then your resume can really be a foundation to help get all these things ready. So what are we going to be doing tonight? We're going to be talking about why LinkedIn, recruiting secrets, how to update your profile so you get noticed, networking, what is it, how can you do it? And then at the end, I'll go over some really quick profile tips on Handshake. And I'm here to answer any questions. So this session is for you. So my goal is always to honor your individual journey, like everyone is on their own path, to save you all time, save you energy, and help you leverage what you do to create maximum impact. So what does your network as your net worth mean to you? And you don't have to come off camera, like if you can't, but if you could like put it in the chat or you can just speak up. But like, what does that mean to you when you hear that? There's no wrong answer.
Well, your network is like your group of people that you can like turn to if you need something or be there to support, and they can help connect you to other jobs or internships or people of interest.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not always, what I wanted to say is the size of your network doesn't always, the goal in like getting contacts isn't to like see how many people you can get liked or connected to on LinkedIn. You really want to think about the quality. So, and it's, even if you think of like Cassidy's definition, which I think is a great definition to go off of, tonight we're kind of focusing on like your LinkedIn network, but your network is really expansive. Your network can be friends, it can be your faculty members, it can be people you come into contact with. So I just wanted to like put a reminder out there that like, don't feel bad. Like you shouldn't be comparing yourself like, oh, I only have like 200 people in my network and this person has 1,000, because size doesn't always mean that it's better. And I'll kind of go over a little bit about this tonight. So, all right. So welcome, Noella. We just got started. So this is kind of what we went over last week of career marketing plan is like all these different things really help you be successful, and UVP is your unique value proposition. So that's just a big fancy word for thinking about like what makes you unique, what can you bring to the table, what are you that go-to person for? So how you figure that out is that actually happens a lot when you're working on your resume, but it can happen when you're thinking about LinkedIn. And like I said, if you haven't shown me your resume, just send me an email with it and I'd be happy to take a look and give you feedback. And then optimizing your online network is really, really important. And I'm so glad all of you are here tonight, because I think most people are really surprised when they're like, whoa, I didn't know LinkedIn could do that. Or I didn't know Handshake could do that. So that's kind of what we're going to be talking about tonight. So true or false, you can just put like, I guess, a thumbs up for true. I'm trying to think if they let you do thumbs down. But do you think most college students like LinkedIn? Like, what do you all think? True or false? So we have 1 yes, and I'm guessing maybe the others are no, maybe 2 yeses. Honestly, like most people, like from what I've heard, it's pretty common. Wait, I don't know. Yeah. most college students don't like LinkedIn. So if you're like, I don't know about this LinkedIn thing, you're in good company. So if you love LinkedIn, that's awesome because it's going to make your life a little bit easier. But I wanted to let you know if you're one of those colleges that's skeptical, totally normal. But I hopefully you'll like it a little more after tonight. So why LinkedIn? So check out these stats. I'm not going to like maybe read every single one, but a couple that just to pay attention to, 84% of companies recruit through social media, and 89% of recruiters say they've hired someone using LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is that, like, a lot of people don't realize, even when companies are posting jobs, the recruiters are working for those companies. So let's say Coca-Cola might have their, that's a really big company, so they might have their 100 key recruiters that they go to. So the recruiters are hanging out on LinkedIn using all this really cool software. Some of the recruiters pay $10,000 a year to be able to use advanced software on LinkedIn to find the right people like you, and then say, hey, Coca-Cola, we found this great person that we think you should be interested in. So that's one of the way the recruiters work on LinkedIn. So you want to make sure that, and this is kind of what this statistic is talking about, so 65% of jobs that you see listed on LinkedIn are probably even like on the internet, they've been filled or processed before they're even listed or never listed at all. So how does that happen? It's because the recruiters, they're giving those recruiters those jobs. They post the job, but they already have their list of candidates that they're going to interview. And sometimes they're internal, but they use software to find you. And so I'm going to teach you how to kind of not beat the software, but how to make sure that your profile on LinkedIn, and it works similarly on Handshake, but it's a little bit different, but how to do LinkedIn correctly so you can get noticed. Whoops. How many data points do you have on LinkedIn? So your LinkedIn profile drives who you get connected to. LinkedIn, they want you to be successful. So the more up to date your profile is and positioned correctly, and the more data points you have, the more likely you're going to like grow your network. And I'll show you this, like we're going to pull up LinkedIn so you can like see it firsthand, wrap your head around it. So again, like 87% of recruiters use LinkedIn to find those candidates. And this is something else, like people are like, I applied to all these jobs. Well, Netflix, Google, Amazon, they receive 5 million resumes for 12,000 open jobs, and only 2% of those are hired. So if you are like thinking like you want to work for one of those like big companies or well-known companies, you really want to make sure that you're doing everything possible to get your name to the top of the list. So how do they find you? One, your identity. So what you're putting on your profile, and I'm going to show you in a couple minutes where you need to make sure these keywords on your profile. It's also what actions you take. So that's really important. So probably on LinkedIn, you're not doing like a ton of socializing, but you want to make sure that, like, if you were interested in, like, let's say, political science, like you were thinking that you were going to go with something in that slant, or law, you want to make sure that you're reading articles and watching videos and intentions that are in that field. So that doesn't mean that you can't like be diverse and have diverse interests, but you want to make sure the actions you are taking are lined up with your interests. So what you do on LinkedIn is equally important to your profile. Another cool way this works, like let's say you were like, okay, I want to work, like my goal is to work for the United Nations. So what you'd want to do then, and maybe you have like top 5 to 10 companies, there are certain actions that you can take to like that company, but then start following them, liking things that they post, making comments, sharing things that they do, then working on connecting to people in that organization. And that's going to boost when you go to apply for a job there, or when the recruiters are pulling out their data, you're going to look higher on the scale because of these actions that you've taken. So what does all this mean? You need to be strategic. Start with your resume. The keywords, we didn't get to that yet, but I'll show you what I mean by that in a LinkedIn profile. You want to make sure you set it up correctly before you start like massively networking. You can start networking like with your friends and faculty members right now and starting to add, like connect with them, but have a plan for how you'll take action. And I always say, can you find 10 to 15 minutes a day for LinkedIn? If not, can you find that 10 to 15 minutes 3 times a week? So, any questions yet? And I'm going to jump over to a sample section. So any questions before I show you? Okay, so hopefully it's not too boring yet. I'm gonna get out of here. Okay. So and feel free to like look at, you know, if you're on your computer and it's easier for you to like look at your own LinkedIn profile while I go through this, that's okay. So because of we have to look at like I'll show you a couple other profiles, but we're gonna start with my profile because once we start to do, like I show you behind the scenes, I can only go into my account. I can't go into someone else's account. But definitely you want to start with your like this top section. That's what people see. So you want to have like, I have a nature scene. I could probably put something more collegiate on there right now since I'm now in higher education. I don't know if, did it switch to Annika for you? Sometimes it doesn't switch. Yeah. So Annika just graduated. She also sometimes does some project work for my office. But like she designed her own banner, which I think is really, really cool. So that's another possibility. You can also, Amanda graduated last year and she found just like a stock photo, which I think is really classy. So that photo is kind of important. I mean, it's very important. So you just want to work to find something classy. You also want to make sure you have a good headshot, like nothing, you know, like you're smiling ideally or have like a friendly looking face, professional. If you don't have one, I'm hosting free professional headshots September 27th and 28th. And they'll be like there's different time slots you'll be able to sign up for. Carly Hendrickson does them. She does an incredible job. She like takes several of you and then you get to pick. I think she gives you several and then you can have them. So you can, at the end of tonight, I'll show you the link to sign up for that. Then this part is really important. So these are all these keywords. So a lot of people, and actually if we go back to like Annika, I'm going to pick on Annika because she won't mind. What happens is normally when you sign up for LinkedIn, this is what comes up. It's like your current job. But what a lot of people don't realize is that you have the ability to change that. So these are all keywords. So keywords are those words that are like in your industry. They are in job descriptions, and you want to get as many keywords that are in your field into your resume, into LinkedIn. Sometimes we get really strategic. If you like come to me and say, this is the job I'm looking for, we will highlight those keywords and then see if you have to make sure that you actually have experience in them, but make sure you get them in there. So basically how you change that is you go right here and that little line is just like the little line above the enter key. And you can see it's just, I focused on higher education because that's where I am right now, but you can also be thinking a few steps ahead. So let's say I was thinking like, I might want to be moving on from Principia. I'm not, but let's say I'm going to want to be thinking of like, okay, what are those keywords I need to put in my headline to make me a match? Like maybe I'm going to start wanting to go back and working with women entrepreneurs, which is something I've done a lot with. So then I might actually have like, that might be my third keyword, like women and entrepreneurship or something like that. So I can help you with this part of it, but this is one section where the artificial intelligence is picking up keywords. So you want to take advantage of that. You don't want to do what Annika did and just have your job title. You really want to use like those keywords of what you're doing. And the cool thing is if you worked with me on your resume, so like Moisa has, Cassidy, I don't know if we had the newest template when I worked with you at the boot camp, but maybe we did. but it's like a lot of those headline words can come from your summary statement up top. So that's a good place to grab those. And then you pick an industry, and obviously, like, think about it, like if you were in marketing, your industry could be like all over the place. You could be in the automotive industry, you could be in comp sci. It just depends. Like if you have a specific industry, make sure you put that in there. Then the other thing that's really important, this open to, you want to make sure that you fill this in. So if you're open to, like, you want to add those job titles in. So think about what is, and like for some of you that are not seniors right now, you're going to put job titles in that are internship titles potentially. And then list where you'd like to work, if there's specific locations. You can fill this out. And then you can decide, do I want this? Do I want only recruiters to see it? So right now, it was recommended to me by a recruiter to not put open to work because it might be different for college students, but it gives the impression that you're not employed. And that doesn't always look good to recruiters, but obviously like college students are in a different spot. And then if I wanted recruiters only, I could push this button. But right now I don't want to be recruited, so I don't have that open. This is where you can add sections to LinkedIn. Before I go on, any questions? Because I know I'm going over a lot. Okay, so the next section that a lot of people just gloss over is this about section, and it's a really important section. And actually mine is, I have not updated it the way you're supposed to. So I looked, and Amanda has kept, Amanda did work with me and kept, like, she did it the way that you should do it. So if you notice, like also in the about section, you only see like the first two sentences. So you want to try and get like the most important stuff in those first two sentences, so people will want to keep reading. And then you get to have a lot of fun in this section. So I'm going to show you in the PowerPoint, I can show you a couple other ways to do this, but you can have these cool headings. Like you can pick like what drives me, what sets me apart, how I envision my career, and things like that. And then at the very bottom, you should have kind of a general statement like of, connect with me. And if you want to, you don't have to put your phone number or your email, but if you're comfortable with it, you can do that as well. So I have like tons of handouts. Like if you want me to share any of that with you all, or we can just work one-on-one together. There's a lot of different ways to do this because I know I'm covering a ton of information. And then under these experiences, once you have your resume done, you can bring all of your resume stuff over to experiences and add that in. And then the other thing I wanted to show you all is these skills and endorsements. How many of you have done this on LinkedIn yet? Your skills and endorsements? Anyone? So the key thing here is these are also big keyword items. So I'll show you. You get to pick the skills. So you should try and get all 50. Get 50 in here. So if you'll look through, like these are a lot of things that I've done. And I have 50 of them, and they kind of break them down into like tools and technologies, interpersonal skills, other skills. But these, you all decide, but then you should pin the top 3. So like I said, because I was in like higher education, program development, and leadership, those are my top 3 skills right now. But let's say like if I was going to be considering a job change, maybe I would change those top skills to match that job that I was looking for. So this is important because again, this is where those algorithms are. And it doesn't matter necessarily how many you've been endorsed by. We can work on endorsements, but that's really important. Have any of you taken the skills quizzes? These can be good too. They're actually harder. They're hard. But they have, especially like for our computer science friends, they have really specific, like Python, HTML, but there's even some for Microsoft, InDesign. The tests are like 15 multiple choice. And if you take them and pass, you get a little badge. And that also increases your ranking, or like, just gives you an extra kind of skill that's been verified. And if you don't pass, no one knows. So like you'll notice it says 1 to retake. I was experimenting to see how hard they were, and so I didn't even finish it. But that's why it's saying that I can take 1. So you can retake them, but I think it makes you wait a couple months. Okay, so any other questions there? Because you guys, this is for you guys, so I want to make sure that we're getting your questions answered. I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint for a minute. So we talked about these, we talked about that. Wait a second. Okay, now I got a little bit off here. There we go. Okay, so again, and this might sound a little bit repetitive, but how do recruiters find you? So it's by those keywords, the actions, and then the LinkedIn algorithms. So how do you find keywords? I talked about this a little bit, but if you start with a job description, you can see what are those words that keep repeating themselves. You can also look for them. There's a couple of websites like on My Plan, there's a dictionary of occupational titles. It's if you think about, when you're looking for those internship or job descriptions, what are those words that are very technical about what you're doing? And you want to make, and I can help you with this. It's easier to kind of work on it one-on-one. And I think Wasa and Cassidy have worked on keywords with me before. So then you also want to have keyword diversity. So you want to have a diverse set of keywords, but you also want to have density. So you want to identify those top 10 or 15 that you keep seeing repeated. So like, and try and repeat them in your profile. So that's another important thing. What is good LinkedIn content? You want to make sure it's well branded, engaging, conversational, and value-based. So I won't go over all this. Like we can, this is just a couple ways to help you uncover your unique value proposition, but what are your superpowers? What do people think about you? Like, what do they say you're that go-to person for? Those are all things that can help you uncover your unique value proposition. And again, just thinking about marketing, you are the product or service that you're selling. So you want to constantly be thinking of that in the back of your mind, and that makes people a little bit uncomfortable sometimes. All right, so we talked about LinkedIn having a strong headline. That was that first thing I showed you. These are, I'm going to fly through this because these are really technical and boring. And I just showed you in action, like what that headline should look like. Here's some examples. Actually, this might be, I'm going to give, so remember my key headline, and I showed you Annika's just had her job title, whereas I had keywords. So if someone had written student photographer at Principia College, and I think I'd actually pulled this off of a student, the way they could change it would be photographer, event planner, marketing, promotion, social media. So do you see how that shift now has just added 5 keywords, but it's also given a bigger picture of what that person does? Or here's another one, like application engineer intern. You could have it change it to application engineer intern, civil engineering, technical writing, product design, product management, and engineering. So now we've optimized that headline with all those juicy keywords. And I can help you if you're stuck on this. Here's a couple more examples. So instead of just like recent graduate, you could say recent engineering graduate, targeting roles in nonprofits with a focus on civil engineering. So I won't read all these out loud, but you can see how there's a lot of different ways to do it. This is where we went from the like this was a resume summary statement. And then this is how we turned it into the headline. So literally this person's headline had all of these, like 10 different really powerful keywords. So what's going to happen if you add those keywords into your LinkedIn profile, you're going to jump up the scale as far as being qualified with all these different skills. And you'll start to see, I would say within a week or two, like when I was active on LinkedIn before I got this job, but not super active. And when I updated my resume to fit what I was currently doing in higher education, and even still now, I'm constantly getting job leads, or like they'll say, oh, you're qualified for this job. And so it really does work, because it's all, I can see the connection to the keywords that I am using. This was another sample of a resume summary and how it could be changed to the LinkedIn headline. So, I mean, again, I know, Sophie, you're maybe doing media. You can see how this is like a media, very media focused keywords. So the industry filter, recruiters can search several industries, but you can only have one assigned industry. So remember how like my industry was higher education, but I was saying like if you're in marketing, there's a lot of different industries you can choose from. So unfortunately, you can only pick one industry. So make sure you pick that carefully. There's 148 choices. We went over open to work. I did that demo for you, so I'm not going to read all that content. And here's the about section. So this is this is the one I showed you with Amanda's profile. So this is a couple of ways that you can do this. So you can say like what I do. You can say who I work with and how. That might not be the best example for college students. But here's a couple of sample headlines. So like if any of these you don't have to use these as a grouping. So when you see these headlines, if any of these sound easy for you to write about, you could pick and choose like 4 or 5, and these would be the headlines in your about section. So your communication style, your true strength, my leadership philosophy, my career target, my top 5 competencies. So these are all examples of how to write your about section. And here's a bunch more. So a couple of things to consider. Are you being engaging? Is it conversational? And does it showcase your values? And finally, have you gone back in and added those keywords? So the profile picture, again, this is super, super technical. But again, like I can share, I'm not going to go over these, read all these out loud, but you just want to make sure that you are tying your banner into your career goal and that you have a professional smiling photo. Okay, the skills section, I demoed that for you live and in person. And then your experience section, this is where you're going to mirror your resume content. One special tip is what my recruiter told me that did where I got certified is do not put your resume in LinkedIn. And I would same possibly for Handshake. It's a little bit different with Handshake, but the reason why is you want, especially as a college student, you're constantly updating your resume. So like this, by next semester, you're going to have more to add on your resume than this semester. So by not you want to entice the recruiters to say, hey, send me your resume, and then you can personalize it for that specific job or position. Couple of things to double check, make sure LinkedIn and resume match. Like you don't want to say that like you worked in a job for like 2 years on your resume, but only 1 year on LinkedIn. You just want to make sure that you're consistent. And there's also accomplishments that you can add on LinkedIn. So there's publications, certifications, courses, projects, honors, and organizations. So that is also something you can take advantage of. You can say your expected graduation date. Also, do not include your GPA if you have under 3.2. And include your sports if you play sports because it's viewed positively. Finally, do your keyword check to make sure you have diversity and density. Okay, so we're not done yet. I know it says what has been the most helpful tonight, but we're not done yet. So what has been the most helpful so far on LinkedIn? Because we're going to talk about networking and Handshake still.
The headings have been helpful, like figuring out how to take a whole sentence and then splitting it up into different keywords.
Cool.
Yeah, I also realized that I still have a lot to do on my LinkedIn because looking at this and going back on my page, there's so many information that I'm missing. So I
Yeah,
need to update it.
that's good. I mean, and you're not alone, Noella. A lot of people don't realize it. And so I would say start, you might not have been here and I said this in the beginning, start with your resume. So first, if I've never looked at your resume or I haven't looked in a while, just send me a copy and say, what do you think? And I will give you feedback. And once we have your resume set, it's so much easier to do LinkedIn and even Handshake. So, yeah. So we're going to move on to networking if everyone's good with that. And it kind of ties into LinkedIn, and I call it also prototype conversations. So why should we network? 70% of the jobs are part of that hidden job market that I told you about, where, you know, their jobs are not always listed, or if they are listed, they're already being filled. And an average of 60% of jobs are filled by networking. The more you network, the more opportunities you get, and you also get promoted quickly, and you tend to bounce back quicker if you've had some kind of challenge or setback. So I like to call it, if anyone's ever been to my Design Your Life stuff, and it's not my stuff, it's like, there's a book called Design Your Life by these professors at Stanford, and they have a whole curriculum. They like to call it prototype conversations, which I think is an awesome word, because when right now in college, right, you're just trying to figure out, like, what do I want to do next? And it's normal to change jobs like 6, 7, 8 times in a lifetime. So by having these conversations, it helps you figure out, what do I want to try? What might sound interesting? So a prototype conversation is not a job interview. It's just a conversation. So you're approaching people. Tell me your story. What is it like to be an actor, an engineer, politician, a scientist? You know, and you just basically are coming from this premise of, I want to be, you know, might want to be in the world where you are, and I'm really curious about it. So if you can start by having a goal of 4 to 5 conversations for each idea you have. So let's say there's like 3 potential career paths you have, set a goal to have 4 or 5 conversations. You'll be amazed with the results. And I know it's super scary at first. I've had students do this, and once they get over that initial kind of, oh, that was easy, they've been offered jobs, internships, they've decided new career paths, they've decided not to go certain directions. So it's really magical. So Annika, who actually, she, as a student, I would say her junior and senior year, had really before I even knew her, had put a lot into networking and getting to know people. And last year, she helped me with this workshop where I asked her, like, what are your tips? And I thought these were really good. Not being afraid to reach out, because you never know what might happen, which is true. And she said, use being in college to your advantage. Everyone likes to help college students. That is also true. I will say, a lot of people have reached out to our alumni, and our alumni network is awesome. I can show you in a little bit how to find alumni from Prynne College on LinkedIn, but I can also help you make connections with our alumni office. It won't happen overnight. It takes time. Don't underestimate the power of meeting a potential career connection anywhere, and a bigger network isn't always better. So I thought those were really good. So a couple of key principles also. So in addition to the prototype conversations, you want to think about like who you know. So people you know, people you're introduced to, alumni. You want to think of, how can I meet people? So how can I meet people in person, online, over email? What can I do? So the info interviews, which is like these prototype conversations. You could reach out to mentors who might be faculty. It could be other people you've met along the way. There's a lot of different groups out there. Like some of you are involved, like even like the Principia mediation group is coming to mind. Like there's people that you can network with when you go to those events, for example, or there might be professional associations. So there's a lot of different ways to make connections, and I'm happy to brainstorm individually with each of you. And there's also a lot of professional groups. So Toastmaster, Young Entrepreneurs Network, Meetup, you name it. So has anyone tried any of these aspects of networking yet? Or is this all new to everybody on the call tonight? Anyone tried it yet? It's okay if you haven't. I wanted to get, if anyone did, I was going to give you the opportunity to speak up. So on LinkedIn, so first you're going to do your resume, then you're going to work on your profile, then you're going to start connecting to people. I will say close friends, like people at Principia, your faculty, don't hesitate to reach out now because they are going to know you and most likely accept your contact. But once your profile is updated, then you want to expand that. And even like your parents and your parents' friends, because if a lot of your parents could have professional contacts or people that are connected already or been using LinkedIn for a while. So that can be really powerful. You also want to look for people in your top 20 companies or people that have common backgrounds and focus on making those connections deeper. So common feelings about networking. So before you start, a lot of people are scared, confused, nervous, not hireable. But after you try, most people are feeling confident, accomplished, proud, and empowered. So you can also send a personalized message. I'm not going to dive deep into this tonight. If you are interested, I have like I can share Google templates with you that are in the Google Drive, and that way they can help you personalize your message. So any questions on that? And before I jump into handshake, oops, and I see chat. Oh, thanks for, yes, keyword, awesome. And it's okay if you don't have a profile yet. Sorry, I'm just catching up to the chat. Okay, questions. I'm gonna pop over to LinkedIn really quick because I wanted to show you before we move on to handshake. I want to show you how to at least find alumni in our network. All right, hold on. Any questions? Because they're all so quiet, which is okay.
I don't have any question. I just need to
You don't have any questions? Okay, and I'm having not majorly technical difficulties, but there we go. It's not, my sharing of my screen is not cooperating with me, but I'll get there. So yeah. That's not the one I wanted. I want this one. Okay. So the other thing, well, I guess I have two. How are we doing on time? Okay. There's two things I wanted to show you that are pretty cool. So let's say that I wanted to see, like I wanted to look at Google and I wanted to see if I know anybody. So my network, I would say, is like, I mean, I've been working, I mean, I am not in the place where I'm like actively adding to my network, but I've now built up like around 1,200 or 15 contacts. And if I look at people in Google, so this is really cool. So for me, we're looking at like how my profile is connected to Google. And if I say, I want to just know first connections. So those are people that I have a direct connection with. Look at this. I actually went to high school with Jeremy. David Gatilius and I went to Principia College together. Pooja, I actually have met face to face. I worked with her a couple of years ago. Like I went to a couple events with her. Paige, even though we're a first connection, I don't remember how I met her, and that will happen. So this is like, I mean, look at all these first connections I have at Google. So that I have 117 results. Now, sometimes that doesn't mean that they're currently at Google. Like if you look at David, he's passed. But for example, like if you are like my dream job is to work at Google. I mean, if you were connected to me, then David Gatilius would be a second connection for you, but you could also see on my profile that I am a first connection with David. And that might be like a really cool introduction to have. So I'm just kind of trying to show you the power of LinkedIn and how quickly things like expand. And how, it's kind of mind boggling. And if I look at second connections, this is even crazier. 141,000 results. So a second connection means like, and that's just showing me how I know Karen is through my first connection, Mark. I know Trevor through my first connection, Larry. So obviously, like sometimes these are harder. Like now there's Jamie Schrader, Tracy Fenton, Robin Gamerath, those are Principia graduates. So right there, if this seemed like a good connection, if I needed to reach out to her, I could reach out to Tracy and Robin and see how well they know Jamie, because they're a first connection. So that's how those second connections work. So it's pretty cool stuff. So that's one reason why LinkedIn is so powerful and why it's really good to build your network. Any questions on that before I move on? Okay, so if I want to find the Principia, I'm going to go up here and look at Principia College. And you can also do this with the school. So even if you didn't go to the school, I would also do it with Principia School, because sometimes, I mean, there's people that went to the school that would still probably be happy to help Prin College students and vice versa. So if I click on alumni, now I can even break it down. There's so many different ways that you can search. I can search by where they live, where they work. But let's just pick, what keyword would you like? What kind of job should we look for? Does anyone have one that they want me to do a search for?
Service provider.
Service provider, what does that mean? We need more specific than that.
Now try refugee. Let's see what will happen.
A refugee, okay. And I'm gonna put it in quotation marks. Okay, 33 alumni have that somehow. So this is kind of cool. And now it's telling me like these are, which this makes sense, Waysa, because like this person was like in sociology and anthropology. So you'd have to dig deeper and find their connection to refugees. But yes, like we have 33. And so literally by doing this, so last year, you all know Marie Sherman, right? Maybe you don't, maybe some of you don't, but she just graduated. She went on here and she did, I don't know what keyword she used, but she was, when you said refugee, it made me think of her because she wants to work in like international relations, the UN. And she found an alum and she ended up having a 2-hour conversation with him, and he works for the UN. And she just simply went on here, connected by being an alumni, and said, could we chat for a few minutes? I'm interested in like just learning more about what you do. So this is a great way to find people. And if you're stuck, I'm happy to help you. Because sometimes like the keywords don't work, but that's a great way. And also as a backup, I always love to email our alumni office of Marilee McFarland and Annabelle Lines, because they are like a walking encyclopedia. So sometimes they'll say, do you know, such and such, like a person that's doing this, and they always try and help. So that's also really good. So we just kind of scratched the surface tonight with that. I did want to show you all Handshake really quickly. Have any let's see. I'll pull up my little questions here. How many of you have tried Handshake? And has anyone completed their profile, like at least 25% or 50%? Yes. Okay. So what can you use Handshake for? So Handshake is a two-way street. So what I mean by that is, yes, recruiters can contact you on LinkedIn, but I feel like Handshake, it's even a little more active than that, but it's only going to be really active if your profile is near 100% complete. So the more you interact with Handshake and Handshake gets to know you, it uses a lot of artificial intelligence also, meaning that, like if Mwesa was on there and was doing a lot of work working with refugees, it's going to start sending him jobs that are in that field, or like, offering him positions that are like that. So I'm going to pull it up. Okay. So I logged into Handshake as a student. There are so many different ways that you can do this. So really quick, I would say start with broad. So like, let's say if we use Mwesa's search term, I'm just going to do refugees. So there were 4 things that came up with that. Now, I don't know if these are all relevant. Teen on the move. So maybe there are sometimes refugees in that program. I'm not sure, or maybe because it's in social work. Then they also have, like, let's see, development and communication specialist, neighborhood house. Now, these are actually, so remember before when I was talking about keywords are like these things: design and help produce major publications, marketing materials, manage website, manage social media, manage marketing. So you can find keywords also on Handshake. If you do a search, or like, let's say I was interested in political science. I'm just there's 22 jobs, and you'll notice there's also internships, ghostwriter, at-risk program coordinator. At the bottom of this, you can save your search. And then you don't have to, or right here, you can hit save your search, and you don't have to keep coming in here and entering this. You can also get really specific if you're like, I only want to work in DC, or I only want to work in California. You can get really, really specific. Or like, let's say if I wanted to do like engineer, there's 978 jobs again, and I went really, really broad. Sometimes I like doing a really broad search first to kind of see what's out there and then narrowing it down. Now I will say every single day Handshake has new jobs. So I get like a message to approve jobs that are with employers that we've connected with so far. And every day there's like anywhere from 20 to 50 new jobs and internships that they're posting. So that's just the jobs. The event section, like our events are on here, but you can also, let's see, you can actually, why is this not? Normally you can view upcoming events that are not on campus. We're not having any on-campus interviews at the moment. But employers, this is also like, especially for big companies, like for Boeing, Google, you can go on here and get tons of information about the company. So what they're known for. You can find out students that have worked there, message them. So you can get a lot of intel before, this is another way to like prototype and try on things that you think you might like. But I wanted to show you your profile. So mine is only 15% complete because I switched back and my student account is really only a demo account, but Handshake will tell you what you still need to add. Again, these are really, really important. Like the cities that you want to work in is really important. The roles that interest you, the industries, the skills, again, these should all be keyword rich. So making sure that these are keywords. If you speak foreign languages, make sure those are in here. Because that can be a huge selling point. And then courses are really important because sometimes, like, let's say you were interested in doing graphic design, but you haven't had a graphic design job, but you've had a graphic design course, that's going to give you credit there. So definitely pretty self-explanatory. It's a lot easier once you have your resume. But again, it's like when your profile gets to that 90 to 100% complete, then you are going to start to potentially see people reaching out to you versus you just trying to like track down and apply for jobs or internships. So any questions on that? I know I'm going kind of fast, but hopefully all of you will, well, some of you have come to see me. Some of you I know pretty well, but some of you I don't know very well yet, but hopefully this is just the beginning and you'll come and see me and we can work one-on-one. Okay, so we're almost out of time. And actually this is any final questions because we're kind of in that, we're just about ready to wrap up because I do want to make sure that we end on time. Okay, so before we wrap up, what were the biggest takeaways now for, I guess, for part 2, or it can be for the whole night?
The importance of networking.
Awesome.
I was gonna say headlining. I think those are crucial in some of
The
the
headlines. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I also, there are some really awesome like short videos or like 2 or 3 minute videos that also talk about the networking / prototype conversations. And if you want me to send those to you all, I can. Here is a quick little survey. I'm going to grab some of these links for you. And a lot of you know this, but if you ever email me, that my calendar link is always in the bottom of my signature. And so that's the easiest way to make an appointment with me. And like I do appointments in person or on Zoom, but also that calendar syncs with like my 8 to 5 calendar. But if you need to meet in the evening, I don't mind. We just have to figure it out like by email. It's just not, my evening times are not in that calendar, I think is what I'm trying to say, because that's too complicated to like work around my family schedule and that. And then just a couple things to think about coming up. We have next Wednesday, I'm doing a workshop preparing for interviews. It says in all the advertising right now that it's going to be in School of Government, but I'm switching it to Zoom. So it's during the lunch hour. So also if you can't make it, it'll be recorded. Part of the reason of doing this interview workshop is there's a career fair. It's virtual at SIUE, which is right down the road in Southern Illinois University, Edwardsville. They're hosting it. So I'd say, even if you're not like seriously looking for a job or interview, it's great practice to attend and just basically you kind of you see what companies are up before you go. You have to upload your resume and a headshot. And then I think the headshot might be optional, but we're doing the professional headshots ahead of time in case you don't have one. And there's 3 different fairs. There's an IT one, an engineering, and the general. And basically you just stop by and you talk to the employers, find out, if they have internships or jobs and get to know their company. So it's good practice, even if you're not serious. There's also, if any of you are thinking about graduate school or law school, I have a webinar on demand. And next semester, a lot of people don't know that there's actually a career course. It's Career 301 that I teach. And that will be next semester. And basically in that course, we dive really deep into like a lot of this stuff. And that's what that is. So, and I'll put this link also in the chat. Where did that go? So any other questions? Hopefully I didn't totally overwhelm you. there's a lot of information, and even like with the resumes, I tell students, if I told you all the rules and like all the rules, even for like LinkedIn and all this, it would be so boring and so overwhelming. So I try and give you the highlights. And then as you work on resumes, cover letters, these profiles, I try and just give you updates as you need them. So, all right. So any other questions tonight? I hope that did everyone get what they wanted? Was there anything that we didn't get to cover that you're like, oh, I wish we could have talked about that?
This was so helpful. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, definitely. And truly, like it is good if we meet like just once even, so I can like help you personalize what you're thinking and thinking about to your situation. But it doesn't have to just be one time. And then a lot of people know this. Sometimes we can even go back and forth with Loom videos. So if you send me a resume, I can do a Loom video and send it back. And so makes it quick and easy. Because I know you all are super busy, but you all, I mean, not only do I thank you for coming tonight, but I can't tell you how much like however you found the time to be here tonight is going to pay off. And so even if you can start blocking off little bits of time for yourself. So like I said, even if it's 10 to 15 minutes a day, if you only can spare an hour a week or 10 to 15 minutes a couple times a week, just making those small steps, you're going to have more opportunities and choices when you start to look for those internships or thinking about jobs after graduation. So, yeah. I mean, Annika, well, there's a lot of success stories, but Annika is one of them because I know her senior year, she actually ended up graduating early, partly, I mean, I don't think that was the plan. There were like COVID kind of did that too, I think, and she had to miss an abroad, but she was just probably, I think from what I understood, like her end of her junior year and senior year, she was actively doing a lot of these things like networking and looking to find a job. So it is possible to do that before you graduate. And Sophie, you have some time. So your next thing will probably be an internship. I do highly recommend an internship, even if, because they lead to jobs and either you figure out like, I didn't want to do that, or that company might want to hire you. And something just to think about if you're a senior, sometimes there are good internships even after graduation that can lead to jobs. So yeah. All right. Well, it's 9 o'clock. I'm going to stop the recording. If you have any